we're going to do a panoramic view, and we're going to go to York Quay Center, sorry. And we're now focusing on the Harbourfront Antique Market, another famous spot in Toronto. This place comes alive in the summertime. Right now it's
nothing, just film.
Yeah. One can see the general public enjoying Harbourfront and Nispa as public skating demonstrates. The Amsterdam Bridge, which connects the Queen's Quay to the John's Quay. Across the road, we can see condominium developments built by the Wang Company. You can tell by the height of them that if you're on the Gardiner Expressway, the Harbourfront view is very limited because of these condominiums. The old warehouse has been converted into one of the more exclusive nightclubs on the Harbourfront, as one can see. Harbourfront. Originally, on the original plan, public transportation...
We're here at Jody's house, and yesterday we did the filming, and it was a chance for us to get a view of our neighbourhoods, Yorkville, King-Spadina and Harbourfront. But we all felt, three of us felt that there were certain aspects of our neighbourhood we weren't able to capture on film, and in particular Dan's neighbourhood, because we had a problem with our battery towards the end, and we didn't have time to charge it because the sun was going down. So we're going to start off having an informal discussion on some other aspects of our neighbourhoods and some of the things we went over, and we're going to start with Dan. Dan?
Okay, all I want to say in respect to Harbourfront is that I want to get a general image of the area because it's a newly planned area, and it's a political question in Toronto right now, because the question is the general citizen allowed to reap the benefits of the harbour? And I did effectively show the Queen's Quay how it's nicely aesthetically pleasing and so on, but some aspects I didn't show were in the Bathurst Quay, which you never made it down to, where the cooperative housing units that were being planned and so forth in the future. And another thing I didn't show were the parking garages. As I said earlier in the presentation, in the original plan, parking garages weren't meant to be part of the plan, but as you can see, and as you didn't see in Harbourfront, there are parking garages all over the place. I also wanted to show Queens Quay Boulevard, how narrow of a street it was, and the traffic congestion problem they're going to have there in the summers because of so many people coming down there. I also wanted to show the bicycle paths and how the quays are all connected and so forth. And I would have also liked to show more of the art shows and whatever. But besides that, if you ignore all the mistakes in the Harbourfront area, you can see the general image that I was trying to project. That's about it.
Thank you, Dan.
Ask Phil how he can give a short summary of what he saw in the North Midtown area on a serious note.
The Yorkville area, as we saw basically some of the major sites. There's a lot of things that we didn't see that I should mention, or we saw but we didn't have a good view of. What we did see, I should mention, is a lot of the expensive shops, for example, Hazelton Lanes, Yorkville Avenue, Cumberland. We didn't see a lot of the office space that exists above the shops, certainly at Yonge and Bloor. What we did see also is Canada's Fifth Avenue, which is interesting and very expensive and exclusive shops. We didn't see the outdoor Yorkville area, North Midtown, is full of historic sites, and it's quite an interesting area. If you take another thing we didn't see is a lot of the institutional uses. Well, that would include U of T, of course, the governmental uses. Queen's Park. We did see that as we were going down Queen's Park Crescent and we were looking at it from the car. We didn't really focus on them. The ROM, Royal Ontario Museum, is also included, which we took a brief look at, although the video reproduction didn't come out so good. Yorkville's Midtown is a very interesting area. What else can I say about it? It's got, as for disputes, there's some disputes. In particular, of recent, which I mentioned, was the COPA dispute. That was between the COPA and the City of Toronto with respect to their licensing and the fact that they fact that they abuse their power by operating a discotheque when they're really only licensed to operate a dinner theater. And as you saw, we interviewed a Scholar Street resident, which is the street behind the Copa, and you saw her quite emotional reaction to that, to the state of affairs that exists there. In sum, I guess Yorkville is quite an interesting area. It's basically low-density residential, but there's also a lot of condominiums that exist there as well, as we shot a few shots of them. It's kind of a mishmash of uses. It's certainly when you look at Yorkville with respect to the surrounding areas, it's much more dynamic, and I think it constitutes certainly one of Toronto's most exciting areas, and certainly one of Canada's as well. Thank you very much. To Jody on his area, King-Spadina. Jody?
Well, as you saw from the videotape, King-Spadina is basically an industrial area, like I've been stressing throughout the whole tape and my presentation. It was interesting to see Queen Street and the Soho district, where there was a lot of retail clothing stores and those new cafes and bistros that dot the scenery now. And also King Street, which is dominated by Ed Mirvish, and right across the road, Ed Mirvish's businesses are thriving because of the emergence of the new West Downtown area, which includes Roy Thompson Hall, CN Tower, the Metro Toronto Convention Centre, and the proposed CBC building. Now, about the industrial areas, King-Spadina, in the late 1980s, as we're in right now, but the mid-1980s, has become less and less concentrated in industry, and commercial developments are really starting to let their presence be known, to say the least. There's a lot of gentrification in the neighborhood. I tried to show before, but the battery again was running down on John Street between Queen and King. There's a lot of used to be residential, but now there's a lot of offices, like lawyers' professional offices and headquarters, and they're all in old type of homes that were at one time or another lived in, and they were built before the turn of the century. And also what we're trying to show was the City TV headquarters right at the corner of Queen and John, with the new headquarters there, and that is in a very old building. And I think it's kind of ironic that City TV, one of the newer, modern type of stations, has moved its headquarters into this old type of building. And in summation, the King-Spadina area, like I said on the tape, is a very integral part of Toronto. It may not be the most dynamic or the most flashy, but still, it is one of the major neighborhoods that make Toronto.
It was a lot of fun doing this. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Jody.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Jody.
Thanks. And I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Caulfield, for
Professor Caulfield.
Oh, sorry, Professor
Oh,
Caulfield.
no, that's John.
For giving us the assignment, and it was a lot of fun.
And we had a lot of fun doing it, and I hope you people had a lot of fun watching.
One last note. I just have to say one last thing.
Go ahead, Phil.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Jody. Thanks,
Thanks,
Phil.
Dan.
No, before we do all this again, I just want to say that you'll have to please excuse the photography and stuff, because that was mostly Jody's fault, but no. No, okay, no. We all shared in the photography and in the acting parts, as you saw, but
Acting is...
it's not acting, it was quite natural.
Okay.
So, it was a lot of fun doing it. Thanks again.
And have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
See ya.